But today we are going to be, the title of our webinar today is Measuring Impact in Maths, Insights from England's Primary Schools. And we're going to be diving into that subject. Sorry, I need to click on that screen. Your presenters today, you've heard a lot from me already. My name is Tom Owen. I'm Vice President at Sumdog. I've worked with Sumdog for around the last 3 years, but for really the best part of the last 20 years, I've worked with schools around the UK, around the world, in areas like this: resources, improving teaching and learning. Nina, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Nina. I'm a manager at Impacted Evaluation. Been working here for about 3 years. I specialize in psychology and academic research. And I'm here because I evaluated a study over the last year in collaboration with Sumdog on its impact.
Perfect. Now I know we have a real mix of people on this call. Some of you will have never heard of Sumdog or Impacted, but are fascinated by the subject. Maybe you've clicked on a social media ad, all the way through to long-term users of Sumdog. So to bring everyone up to speed, I just want to give you a very high-level overview of who Sumdog are. Sumdog is an adaptive learning platform for children aged 5 to 14, built to help them learn and practice maths. I'm sure those of you on the call who've used the platform for a long time will agree the key to Sumdog is engagement. Kids love using it. But kids having fun is not enough. There has to be some good outcomes sitting beneath that in an educational context. Sumdog's adaptive games tailor questions to each learner's level, ensuring that they're challenged appropriately while still experiencing success. Teachers can set targeted activities aligned to their national curriculum or White Rose Maths, while students earn rewards and build confidence through gameplay. Beyond individual practice, Sumdog encourages collaboration, friendly competition through things like class challenges, our leaderboards, contests, and we like to celebrate that success. There is a photo on our slide there of Sumdog visiting a school. It's a thing we like to do. For anyone interested, yes, that is me inside, and yes, it is incredibly warm in there. Nina, would you like to tell us a little bit about Impacted so everyone is up to speed?
Yeah, thank you, Tom. So I come from an organization called Impacted Group, and I'm specifically in the practice that's called Impacted Evaluation. We support education and purpose-driven organizations to maximize their impact and sustainability. So that means that we are kind of highly experienced in working with organizations to help them understand the complexity of their work, supporting them to evidence their impact and reflect on what is working and what can be improved. This often looks like capacity building, research and evaluation work, sometimes different types of technical expertise. And annually, we work with over 1,500 schools and 100 education organizations.
Wonderful. Thanks, Nina. Okay. Let's dive into why we are here today. Now everyone is up to speed. We're going to start with our why. Why conduct this study? And our headline, if you've read any of the blurb on this, is that during the academic year 2024-25, Sumdog have partnered with Impacted Evaluation to A, understand the impact of Sumdog on pupils' maths attainment and attitude towards maths, and B, to investigate how Sumdog has been used by teachers and find opportunities to further improve the platform. Now that headline is great, but kind of why? Why are we conducting this study? Firstly, it's never been more important to be able to prove the impact of any resource that a school purchases. Year on year, schools are being asked to do more with less. So the funding just is not there for something which is okay, might make a difference. Secondly, we also know that the Department for Education is moving towards funding and resourcing decisions based on proven impact. We hear about it all the time. So even schools with that funding in place, maybe long-term users, maybe need to be able to show that impact of any resource. And finally, we at Sumdog take impact very seriously. I use the analogy that much like teaching, no one gets into building educational resources for the glamour and the money. The reward is when you see that difference, the difference you make each day. And as we want to be constantly developing Sumdog to have that impact, studies like this give us so much valuable information in how we can have the greatest possible impact. I'm going to hand over now to you, Nina, to dive into a bit more about our study.
Yeah, a bit more about the study, how it was conducted and all. Thank you, Tom. So earlier last year in September 2024, Sumdog shared with us all of those research questions, and we kind of set up on a journey to start understanding how to collect the data that would most accurately give us the right information to explore Sumdog's impact. And to answer the research questions Tom outlined earlier, we gathered a range of data and brought it together to build kind of a full picture. We spoke with teachers through interviews and focus groups, where we explored how Sumdog was used in classrooms. We also explored teachers' views on pupils' attitudes towards maths and whether there were any differences across pupil groups, so gender differences, pupil premium funding differences, etc. Alongside this, we collected attainment scores. So we were looking at whether pupils were working below, at, or above the expected standard to see how their maths performance changed after using Sumdog. Finally, we surveyed Year 5 pupils to understand their confidence in maths, their motivation, their sense of capability in maths, and their levels of maths anxiety. And all of the above were measured at baseline, so around term 1, before they started they started using Sumdog, and at end line, so that was after 2 terms of using Sumdog towards the end of the academic year. If you don't mind, Tom, moving to the next slide. I'm assuming I can't do this myself, so that's why I'm asking you.
Yes, I didn't manage to work out that functionality, so yes, yeah, do let me know.
That's all right. So here's a quick overview of who took part in the study and the data we collected. So we gathered data between October 2024 and June 2025 across 14 schools in England. From pupils, we collected nearly 500 attainment scores and just under 240 survey responses. And that gave us insight into both their maths performance and their attitude towards maths. We also gathered information on their demographics, such as gender, eligibility for pupil premium funding, and whether they had special educational needs. And alongside this, we spoke directly with 15 teachers from 11 of the 14 schools through interviews and focus groups, which gave us valuable context about how Sumdog was being used in practice and how it was received in classrooms. What was particularly valuable is that we spoke to a wide range of staff. So while what they had in common is that they all taught Year 5, or most of them at least did, some of them were teaching assistants, others were subject leads for maths as well. We also had a couple of principals joining. So this gave us perspectives from across different roles and levels of responsibility, and it helped us build a more rounded picture of how Sumdog was used in schools. If you don't mind going to the next one. Before going into the findings, it's always good to recognize the limitations. And as with every good study, there are a few limitations to keep in mind when interpreting the findings. So first, the pupil surveys that we used were custom designed to align with Sumdog's intended outcomes, but they were not formally validated. So this means that there's a risk they may not fully capture what they're intended to measure. Having said that, they answered exactly the questions we were aiming to answer, so that was really, really useful within the study. Secondly, the study did not include a comparison group. So without this comparison group, we can't draw firm conclusions about whether the changes we saw were directly caused by Sumdog. There are plans to track these pupils into Key Stage 2 and compare their to track them into Year 6, and compare their Key Stage 2 SAT results in maths to national averages, providing us therefore with a comparison group. And finally, pupil voice in this evaluation was slightly more limited. So we gained a lot of insights through speaking to teachers about pupils enjoying the using Sumdog, as you'll see later, but it would have been stronger having that pupil voice through the interviews, hearing the pupils say this themselves. So I think these are a few of the limitations that didn't necessarily stop us from getting really valuable findings that I'll talk to you about in a second. If you don't mind, Tom, going to the next slide. So yeah, summary of findings. If you don't mind going to the next one. Great. I've separated the findings into key findings for implementation and key findings for impact. I'll give you a bit of an executive summary to start with, and then I'll do a deep dive into a couple of these findings. So in terms of implementation, teachers told us during interviews that Sumdog was easy to pick up and use, even for first-time users. Together with that, pupils really enjoyed engaging with maths through the platform, which made practice feel more fun and less like a chore. Teachers also highlighted 3 key ways they use Sumdog. So first, it gave pupils a chance to consolidate what they had been taught in class. Secondly, it provided a way to engage pupils who were usually less interested in maths. And finally, it helped teachers to identify gaps in learning that they could then address directly through their teaching. Next slide, please. And in terms of key findings on Sumdog's impact, we've got a few things to get through. So pupils using Sumdog showed statistically significant improvements in maths attainment between term 1 and term 3. As I said earlier, we can't necessarily make causal claims without a comparison group, but teachers felt that Sumdog was a valuable tool for building fluency and supporting progress. So that was really, really positive to see. Together with that, male pupils' maths anxiety statistically significantly decreased, which was also a really positive finding. We also saw early signs that new features, such as prompts encouraging pupils to slow down when they were answering questions too quickly, they're helping to promote greater mathematical accuracy, and a few of the teachers pointed that out during the interviews. Finally, it was really encouraging to see that vulnerable learners, so those with special educational needs, lower attaining pupils, and those with lower self-esteem, were among pupils who benefited the most using Sumdog. Out of all of the findings that I talked about, I think it would be nice to do a deep dive into pupils' attitudes towards maths and how they were influenced while playing Sumdog, and also their attainment. I guess I'll start with pupil attitudes towards maths. If you don't mind, Tom, going to the next slide. Thank you. In terms of those, 3 were the main key findings. Well, the key findings. So pupils engaged well with learning maths through Sumdog, and they also enjoyed learning through Sumdog. And the third one was that their ingrained attitudes towards maths didn't change during the study, but teachers felt that over a longer period of time, this could happen. And obviously, because we're talking about 2 terms of using Sumdog, this is something that we can definitely kind of assume or kind of test further to see if with a longer term usage, that could definitely happen. Next slide, please. I thought it would be nice to take you through those kind of key findings and give you a few of the examples that are taken from the quotes directly cited in the report, but I definitely encourage you to have a look because there's many more that I have taken from teachers' findings. So most teachers noted that it was too early in the implementation of Sumdog to accurately assess its overall impact, but many of them had already observed positive effects on people's engagement with maths, highlighting increased enjoyment of the exercises and growing confidence when using the platform. And I've picked out this specific quote since it's about a specific pupil rather than like all together, so it gives us more of a case study here. So I have one child in particular who would not engage. If I asked him to go and do something to do with maths, he'd be like, I really don't want to do that. I just don't want to do that at all. Since doing this, so using Sumdog, they've actually come in and been like, oh, I've downloaded the app now, I'm actually doing it now. And actually, I can see they're actually accessing the work as well. So it's really, really positive to see that there is pupils that wouldn't normally engage with maths, but through Sumdog, they get the opportunity to have fun with it and practice a little bit what they're learning in class. Next page, please. Second one about pupils' enjoyment. So we've got a couple of quotes here by teachers explaining that that pupils really enjoyed it. Instead of me reading this, I'd like to give you maybe a few seconds to have a read yourselves, and I'll comment on them in a second. These quotes, they really highlight how much pupils enjoy using Sumdog. So one teacher noted that even children who don't usually talk to them about maths went out of the way to say that they'd enjoyed it. And another one described how if they have just a few minutes at the end of a lesson and bring Sumdog out, the class responds with cheers and excitement. Like they say, whoop, let's go, was the expression used by the teacher. And this enthusiasm is seen across different ability levels and groups of pupils, which was really positive to see. So based on these comments, it seems like Sumdog isn't just engaging as a platform, but it's creating a positive and kind of inclusive experience for learners. So especially for me as an interviewer in many of these cases, it was really positive to hear how teachers related to kind of ways of including a lot of different learners. If we can go to the next one. And then the third one, around pupils' ingrained attitudes towards maths. I would actually like to read to you the first quote, but the prevailing view was that while Sumdog successfully supports learning and boosts engagement, it does not necessarily shift pupils' broader attitudes towards maths as a subject. I'll read the quote now. I've got 20 children in my class, and I've already got 28 different opinions on that. That's the reality. Some of them will tell you that it is their absolute favorite subject, and some of them will say that it's their least favorite part of the day. We try our best to make it as engaging as possible. We try our best to make sure that children who find maths hard are supported so that they don't switch off from it. So what the teacher, at least in my opinion, is trying to say is that we don't expect all pupils to love maths, but we're trying to make sure that even if they don't like maths, they still keep engaging with it. And it seemed like Sumdog was able to provide that to them. So they recognize that their goal isn't to always make every child love maths, but rather to ensure that those who struggle don't disengage from it entirely. It is worth noting that a few teachers expressed optimism and attitudinal shifts may emerge, that attitudinal shifts may emerge over a longer period of time. And again, I would encourage you to have a look at the report where I've included a few of those kind of quotes by teachers seeming really positive about longer term impact. Next slide, please. So consistent with this view of not a significant change in attitudes towards maths, quantitative data from pupil surveys showed no statistically significant change between baseline and endline time points in pupils' confidence, their motivation, perceived capability in maths, or levels of maths anxiety for the overall cohorts. It's good to say that there were, however, statistically significant decreases in male pupils' anxiety towards maths, which is something I wanted to touch on. Next page, please. So I've included this graph here. We can see that female pupils' maths anxiety stayed about the same from baseline to endline. And when I say baseline to endline, I mean term 1 to term 3, in between not using Sumdog and using Sumdog. But for male pupils, anxiety was slightly lower to begin with, and it dropped by 5.5 percentage points over the course of the study. So our research didn't specifically explore the gender differences. That wasn't necessarily are one of our main questions in terms of how pupils engaged with Sumdog, but this could be an interesting area for future research. One possible explanation is that the competitive and game-based format of Sumdog may appeal more strongly to boys, which could in turn help reduce their levels of math anxiety. So that can be definitely a useful tool for boys in particular. Moving on to the next slide, I'm taking you away from attitudes towards math, and I'm bringing math attainment in the spotlight. It was really positive to see that looking at the entire cohort of pupils, we see a reduction of pupils working below expected standard and an increase in pupils working above expected standard. To understand this graph a little more, if you look at the red bit, or pink for some, that's the working below expected standard, and we can see that in term 3 was quite lower. And then the green one is the working above expected standard, and we can see an increase there of number of pupils working above expected standard. The really positive finding, I think, is the one in the next slide that Tom will reveal in a second, where we see that math attainment improved for pupils both with and without special educational needs. So as you'd expect, attainment for pupils with SEN was generally lower than their peers, but what's encouraging is that they still made statistically significant progress. So for example, at the start of the study, so in term 1, about 70% of SEN pupils were working below the expected standard. So if you look at the red bit at the very top, and by term 3, this had dropped to 41%, showcasing that a lot of the SEN pupils really improved in their kind of math performance and specifically attainment. And it will be really interesting to follow these year 5 pupils into year 6 and see how they perform in their key stage 2 SATs, and then compare those results to national averages and see what can the differential impact of Sumdog be in that case. So this was a deep dive into math attitudes towards math and math attainment. I'll hand over to Tom, who will continue with a few other bits.
Wonderful, thank you. I think we will. There's been some questions coming in as we have gone through that about some detail in there. At the end of this session, we will flag how you can get access to the full report, and we'll follow up on some of those specifics in there. But yeah, really fascinating detail around a whole range of different things with some of the highlights which you've put together there. So brilliant. Look, I just wanted to I do want to go into kind of some of the implications and next steps following this study, because as we said at the outset, that this is something which we at Sumdog wanted to do so that we can make those next steps, so that we can see that impact on the ground. But before we head into those implications and next steps, I thought I'd pull out one of the kind of key pieces of information for me, which we got from this, which is that teachers felt Sumdog supported mathematical fluency, which is good. We would expect that, and that it was a valuable component of their teacher toolkit for improving progress. And that's very much how we see Sumdog, that we're part of this toolkit. We're one of a set of different things that a teacher can use to be able to support their maths teaching. I'm sure you've seen this diagram before. It pops up all over the place, outlining teaching for mastery in maths. And we know this is key in schools, ensuring pupils have a secure grasp of those key concepts before moving on. This involves exploring mathematical ideas from multiple angles, making connections across topics, engaging in reasoning and problem-solving tasks. Where Sumdog fits into that teaching, as the teachers have identified, is around fluency, which has a central role in this mastery approach. It provides that foundation upon which reasoning and problem solving are built. It supports confidence, reduces that cognitive load, and enables learners to engage with more challenging mathematical ideas. So it really aligns with this learners, whether they are with SEN or whether they have other challenges around their learning, we can really help support that. In Sumdog, fluency, when we talk about it, within the company, that refers to a deep conceptual understanding of numbers, operations, rather than just memorizing those key facts. And we know that teachers using Sumdog feel the same. For teachers, it's crucial that children can constantly and consistently practice and reinforce their core number skills. Fluency in these basic skills is essential, as it forms the building blocks for tackling more advanced topics. The assess, analyze, practice, reassess, or AAPR model supports this by ensuring that learning is not left to chance. Teachers regularly check for gaps, target them, revisit them until the pupils can demonstrate confident understanding. This aligns with Mastery's principle of keep up, not catch up, where timely intervention prevents misconceptions from becoming embedded. This aligns with what we believe is the most impactful way of using Sumdog as part of your toolkit. Regularly setting work on Sumdog so you can follow that AAPR model. Some examples are shown in that diagram of how that practically works in schools using Sumdog and embedding in this way. But we know that teachers are incredibly time poor. So in addition to setting work, Sumdog's Maths Fluency Booster steps in to support mastery learning. With this tool, pupils can continuously practice their core number skills in the background, whilst teachers move on to teaching other areas of the maths curriculum. So for that really blended class, we're there to support that. By automating the practice of these essential skills, Sumdog ensures that pupils don't miss out on vital practice time, even in the busiest of classrooms. What we hear from teachers that sets Sumdog apart, not just in this study, but in the conversations we have every day, is that our maths fluency tools provide detailed insights into each child's progress. With every question answered, Sumdog builds a comprehensive picture of a pupil's strengths and areas that need extra support. Teachers receive valuable information to plan their next steps, ensuring that pupils receive the targeted support that they need to succeed. If you are a current Sumdog user and want to speak to us more about how you can use Sumdog in a more effective way as part of your teacher toolkit, do leave something in the questions. We can follow up on. Get in contact with me or your account manager. Okay, let's dive into implications and next steps. So what does this study mean for Sumdog? It was flagged in the study that teachers felt attitudinal shifts may happen over a longer period of time. And I wanted to address this, that we do have a huge amount of anecdotal evidence. If you look at case studies from schools who've been in that exact position using Sumdog over a period of years, that is when we see that shift. It's not about doing Sumdog for 10 minutes and suddenly loving maths. It's about feeling confident in that fluency, help removing that anxiety. Now, at Sumdog, we want to focus on ensuring that the platform works for ages across schools. And as a parent of a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old, I would say what a 5-year-old needs and an 11-year-old needs are very, very different. So we've done a lot of work in these areas, even down to the games which are available. But offering more guidance to our schools and support in how we use Sumdog in these contexts, we feel can really help our schools in this area. So we see this long-term development of what we do. I want to talk about our anti-rush system. This is something which was picked up in the interim report for this study. So that was back in March. It was picked up that it was a challenge. Sometimes engagement can be a challenge. So children were so engaged by the games that they rushed through their questions, guessing to get back to gameplay. Now, so since then, we have implemented an anti-rush system. This is designed to help those children to change their habits so they slow down and think about their answers. I've got a few examples of what this actually looks like. So if children rush incorrect answers several times in a row, they'll see a screen which looks a bit like this. Then if they get that screen, that above screen, a couple of times, and that could be over multiple games, and their accuracy is still below a certain percentage, they'll get a warning. We're into our amber at this point at the end of that game. And then as a final step, if they continue to guess in subsequent games, they'll end up in a mode where they have no gameplay, just questions. So it's about gentle nudges to move people in the right direction, to be able to remove that rushing just to get to gameplay. We want to have that balance the whole time. Now, since implementing this a few in the fairly recent past, we've had hugely positive feedback from teachers, and that's all come as a direct result of information which we've gained from the study and feedback from schools. The other big thing I want to flag is that engagement and engaging all children. I think in the study it was flagged as SEM. Now, we look at engaging all learners, and for us it's really important to support vulnerable learners in whatever forms they might come. So pupils with special educational needs, lower attaining pupils, pupils with lower self-esteem, these are the ones who most benefit from Sumdog, but there is engagement and learning for every single child. And we know what the statistics look like. We know there's been a significant and ongoing increase in the number of pupils with special educational needs in schools, particularly in England. Right now, the stats are nearly 1 in 5 pupils now receive support. Now, there's a lot of layers. If you're a teacher in school at the moment, you know that there's a huge amount of time delays in getting people assessed, getting people that support, so that 1 in 5 isn't necessarily reflective of just the special educational needs population. But that also doesn't tell the whole story of that range of different things, range of different challenges which you're dealing with in the classroom. And that is all of these different challenges, not just tied to special educational needs. Now, Sumdog can provide big benefits for these learners, but that is not, as I've got on the screen there, that's not a happy accident. It's fundamental to our product and who we are as a company and how we want to serve our schools. We build in inclusivity by design. We have many ways which we help children access and find success in using Sumdog. And it's really encouraging for us that we have seen in this study that that is having an impact. These are things from making it easy to switch where your type pad is to make sure it's comfortable for left-handed children, to read aloud options. We've prioritized questions at easier levels to help younger children who can't read as well. We use color and icons to support the understanding of the interface. We've provided a range of aspects to help children who are neurodiverse. You can toggle sound off or on. And we have 21 of our games that don't have a timer against those questions. If pressure and anxiety is a real issue, then we have the support for that. We have had great feedback from teachers who say those with autism and ADHD find that focus, structure, and predictability of Sumdog can help them feel capable. In terms of that capability and agency, the avatar is key to, if you're playing games in Sumdog, you have an avatar. We have a huge range of ways children can represent themselves. As you'll see from the range available here, children can change skin color, hair color and style, facial features, clothing, shoes. We have various different setups for disabilities. Many children reflect themselves as closely as possible. Some choose something completely different, like our Sumdog costume there. But they have agency over who they are in Sumdog. And that extends to sociability. It was flagged around some of the gender setup that the tendency of gamification of any gamification in schools is to favour competitive extroverts, and that is me speaking as a pretty competitive, pretty extroverted person. But in Sumdog, we have a range of aspects that will appeal to children wanting to do something by themselves. And that's because we take different personality types and different reward mechanisms seriously. That is led by our gamification. And our gamification techniques in Sumdog are based on a tool called Octalysis, which outlines 8 main ways that people are motivated. Typical gamification might include 2 of these: accomplishment, social influence, points and leaderboards. But as we embed Sumdog in a school over a period of time, we see more of this framework coming to fruition, to think about all of the other ways in which we motivate children. This is how we appeal to lots of different children who like lots of different aspects of Sumdog. And what is key to what we build is that there's always something that motivates this whole suite of people, that whole diverse group of children you have in a classroom, to engage in their learning. And finally, on the follow-up, finally on these changes, this was something I've only been able to put into this presentation in the last kind of 48 hours. It's a bit of a sneak preview. If you are a Sumdog user, you'll hear more about this in the very near future. Our new intervention report is specifically designed to help pinpoint areas of improvement and identify catch-up areas, making it much easier to use that AAPR model in a really effective way with your students. So, as you can see, we've already begun to make changes based on this study. This study shows some of the work which we have been doing over the last few years to really focus on that engagement and those outcomes. We have got, I'm just checking my time, we've got 7 minutes left, which is excellent because our next point is to dive into questions. I did just want to do a couple of bits of follow-up before we dive into that. So, first of all, if you are a school in Scotland, our next efficacy study is our Scotland efficacy study. This one was focused on England. This next one will be focused on Scotland. And if I can find my little link, if you are a school in Scotland who wants to get involved in the efficacy study, I'm going to put in our chat the link to sign up for that efficacy study. It'd be wonderful to have you as a part of that. Secondly, oh, that is the wrong screen that has come up. Let me pull up a different screen. So our report is now live. That was meant to be a nice screenshot of that, but obviously it's come up with something else within that setup. Our report is now live. As a follow-up to this webinar, you'll get a recording. You'll also get a link to that full report, so you can dive in and see that in full detail. Okay, I've been talking for a little bit of time there. We still have kind of 5 minutes left to go through some questions. I can see that questions have been coming in. Well, that's good. As we've been talking, I think we've got some answers to some of the questions, which is excellent. But I did have, let's pull up a couple of these questions on a separate screen so I can look at them. Okay. So we have a question, this is from an existing Sumdog user, around further detail on like other Sumdog updates. It's a very worthy question. Like we've gone through some of the Sumdog updates in there, but something which you might have missed because it is back to school at the moment, so I know a lot of people are busy, is we did a big upgrade in August to our teacher dashboard. If you've not gone in and looked at the new teacher dashboard, I really would. We've had amazing feedback from our teachers on how easy it is to do things, how easy it is to set up, finding reports, stuff like that. All of the things to make your process easier will be in there. So I would say have a look at that teacher dashboard. Also, if you want some guidance on that, again, reach out to me or speak to your account manager and we will be able to solve that for you. So I'm just reading through these questions as we go. Also, this is a question which comes up quite a lot within these things, is kind of new games. I did mention about this trying to, so the question is around like, are there going to be new Sumdog games? Because I guarantee if you're a teacher in school, that is a question you get asked, and kids get really excited about those new games. It is something which, when I was outlining kind of different ages and being able to engage with them, the range of games we have does really help that. So we do have this regular update of games. You might have seen we launched Blizzard Bounty back in May, which was hugely popular. It is a really fun game. It was responsible for 20% of all of our gameplay at the end of the last school year. So look, really popular game, Blizzard Bounty. But you might have missed over the last kind of in the back to school period, we have launched Balloon Ride. Now that's it's a beautiful, fun, relaxing game. Meets a lot of the needs we were talking about, but also it's kind of designed for that younger age group. So again, trying to capture children and keep them motivated across the school. But I would say watch this space, as we're always looking to keep that engagement really high, always looking to build out more games. Okay, I'm going to look through other questions. Great. So we have got some kind of, I would say, some specific questions around things like methodology and that set up within the study. My suggestion would be that we potentially take those offline. We'll come back and answer any questions which have been asked in there. Also, I'd say read the detail of the full report, because that will outline a lot of this stuff in more detail. Okay, we have a couple of minutes left, but if there's no other obvious questions in there, Nina, anything else you'd like to say in the last kind of couple of minutes we have? If not, we'll let people get back to their lunches and the rest of their day.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much for including me in this. We will pick up all the methodology questions and anything else asked in the group chat. Yeah, and have a lovely break, everyone who still has a break.
Fantastic, wonderful. Thank you all for your time. Thank you, Nina, and yeah, we will we'll speak to you all soon. Thanks a lot for your time. Bye.
Bye bye.
Okay, I'm back. Let's get started. I expect we'll find more and more people join us as we go along.